Today we're talking about camera movement. We have the greatest panel in the world to talk about camera movement and advances this year, right? Some of the changes that we've seen over the last year. So, a great panel with some of the newest technology and some of the technology that's constantly evolving. So first, Sam Nutman, owner-operator Motion Slate, fantastic gimbal operator, one of the guys who taught me how it actually works. It's amazing. Sean Brown, Motorized Precision, inventor and creator of this crazy robot. We'll talk about that more. Garrett Brown, famous Garrett Brown, inventor, founder of Steadicam. He's a legend, so if you don't know who he is, then I can't help you anymore. So, and Ray Reyes, Director of Technical Services at Tiffin Steadicam. Thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate having you here today. Yeah. So, as I said, panel about motion today, what's happened in camera movement. I just wanted to start out asking the group, what's changed over the last year? What are the new things that you've seen in your section of the business? Gimbals, control, and how is that and sort of impacting and empowering filmmakers? So I'll start with you, Stan. What are you seeing? I know we've seen some updates from Movi, from FreeFly, and from Ronin, and from DJI, things like that.
Yeah, I think what's exciting now that what we're really seeing is sort of cross-platform integration.
Yeah.
So, for example, like we have a Dactylcam Pro for motorized cable cam movement, and we fly drones. And now with the Movi XL, we can put large lens, large format cameras on vehicles. So, it used to be that you'd have to have sort of a different ecosystem for every type of movement.
Yeah.
But now we can snap the camera off of a vehicle mount, put it on the cable cam, get that shot, snap that off, put it on a drone, and it's all the same control system. So once you know one system, you kind of know all of them. So that's like been the biggest thing is, when it comes to telling a story, is having all these options in your toolkit for how you want to move the camera.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the fact that you can mount these on a different head, on an arm now, and it's sort of coming together. Those solutions were sort of far and few between originally.
And how quickly you can do it. That's the other thing is the setup time is so short now that a cable cam system can be set up in 30 minutes or an hour, and now you've got a camera flying over a crowd safely where you can't do that with a drone, or doing all these amazing chase scenes and stuff like that. So it's the versatility and how quickly you can do it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Sean, same question for you, and I know you're in a sort of specialized ecosystem here, but we saw your rig first time last year, pretty amazing. And I'm just curious about how what's happened since then, which we saw last, and what this tool is empowering filmmakers.
Sure. Well, we got a lot of positive feedback last year, which led us to do a lot more projects.
Yeah.
And like Sam said, integration and speed is really important to people. So with Kira and with MP Studio, we integrate as much as we can.
Yeah.
Like you have the live view, you have the 3D view, you have the simple timeline. People can really understand how to get a shot that wasn't achievable before, and really fast.
Yeah.
So we could set up Kira in about 20 minutes. Yeah. We could create a shot in about 2 to 3 minutes, and instantaneously you're getting feedback on shots you couldn't do any other way, and you can just play them over and over and over at speeds that you can't achieve with any other device, or really slow, and just scale it. And just think of new ways to I want a shot that goes really slow, it takes about a day, and then really speeds up to 1 second, Like, okay, we can do that.
Yeah. So it's really about control and precision in that case, right?
Yeah.
So, and repeatability.
And then just being able to understand it. Yeah. Being able to communicate with the operator or go to the software and say, I see what's going on here, I see what it's allowing me to do, and start doing it.
Yeah. So, Garrett and Ray, I'll ask both of you, and I know there's some... Steadicam is, from the very beginning, it's about innovation and change and new features. I think, I saw this crazy arm thing over there. I know you're constantly changing this platform and even adding integrations to other platforms, gimbals and other things. So can you talk about a little bit of the things that have been going on over the last 12 months since we?
Yeah, I mean, Ray and I are shaking our heads listening to you guys, Sam and Sean, because I feel like a dinosaur among mammals, a couple of mammals here.
Well, I think these things are.
No, but
Steadicam's not going anywhere. We know that.
No, we're still a Tyrannosaurus.
I mean.
But the astounding thing is, when I got in the game, there was one way to move things smoothly. You're on the dolly. That's it. It's very hard for filmmakers today to remember where we came from.
Yeah.
And listening to you guys talk about the facility of all this and the speed and of course the stability of these platforms is awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
This is stuff that in my Newtonian world we had to work really hard to get it stable, and we had to apply a bunch of skill.
Right.
It's a bit like a violinist, you know, who does it manually and analog, confronting a sampler, you know, a synthesizer, or some brilliant, you know, synthesized music, you know. And of course, what you guys do is perfectly valid. It's the real thing. And I have always thought it's what humans want to see. We don't want to see handheld, bloody handheld. We want to see like we see.
Yeah.
We see with an amazing computer in our heads, we see it smooth. You know?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's a fabulous era. I'm so happy that I'm still poking around and
No,
watching
it's
what's
amazing.
Well, you trailblazed the way forward for us. As you were creating advancements, you gave us ideas on how we can create advancements and build upon what has been created before
Yeah,
us.
no, it's a marvel, and the beneficiaries, number one, are the filmmakers that get to rock and roll with this stuff,
Right.
and the audience.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
It's pretty amazing, as you said, how we built upon this over time.
say that again.
It's pretty amazing how it's been built upon over time. And I know, but I know as of recently, I mean, it's not like you guys are standing still. It's far from it. You know, the tools keep getting better and stronger and less expensive and a broader appeal. I know, Ray, one of the things we were talking about just a minute ago, though, too, is how you're integrating with other platforms now. Like the integration with the SteadyMate, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, that's the great thing, I think, is the music that's being made, the beautiful music that's being made, that's being married between all the technologies. You know, it's just like a traditional instrument versus something that's electronic.
Yeah.
It all comes together
Right.
and it makes beautiful music. And that's what is driving us to still be innovative and still create. So we do have things like the SteadyMate that can help the operator carry it and be more efficient. You know, we've got some other devices that we'll be announcing soon too that go onto a traditional system that also help with electronics and controlling the movement and helping the operator really lose the mental wear that's on them to frame and compose, so they can actually create the shot and really focus on the storytelling, which is the most important part, right, is the storytelling.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're doing, is giving people the tools to tell the stories and do it well, do it efficiently, you know?
And it's an art form. I mean, it's an art form, and I like you bring the music part up to it because it is an art form, no matter what.
And
It's
at
an
the
art form.
heart of it is the human artist is at the heart of it. At
Always.
the heart of what you do. The human is programming this thing.
Right,
The machine
right.
is not dreaming up its own shots yet.
We're just getting
That's what we're on
trying
trouble.
to make sure that the technology gets out of the way. It's there for the people that
Yeah.
want it.
Exactly.
We give them the tools that
And the
they're
more
asking
transparent.
for to allow them to be creative.
Yes.
And then we get out of the way, you know,
right.
and then use it, and then create and put it out to the world.
No, it's thrilling. And, you know, in all of my gadgets, you know, what counts is the bloke or the woman behind it, you know. When we're teaching people, we're saying, you know, without the will to have a specific shot, whether it's, you know, on your gear or yours or mine, or without the will for a specific effect, you're just a wanderer, you know, you're in the random universe, and something may or may not come out, you know. So that's still and always the heart of it is the operating mentality. And I'm a huge fan of great operating, you know. It's the unsung art of movie making, you know.
It really is. I mean, I go to the SOC Awards every year, and one of the things that you take out of that, when you look at it in context, and it's easy not to look at it sometimes, even from a filmmaker, even from all of us. You can start looking at a film and be in awe of the lighting, or be in awe of the beautiful shots, and I love cinematography, but when you start to notice the actual the movement of the camera, what it actually brought to it, it's funny. The people don't even necessarily, it becomes the viewer, I think, and it's different than just, you know, a scenic, you know, it's something very different. So
Ray and I have always thought that operating was much more important than acting or directing. Well,
we'd all like to think so.
Well, the one thing that can
we
take
need more
you out of
awards
the
for
image.
this.
That's right. Well, you know, when you watch a movie like Birdman that was celebrated
exactly.
for
It's a
camera
storytelling
moving,
device.
yeah,
Or Revenant.
Revenant, oh my
The
God.
Revenant
Yes.
was
And that's-
astounding.
and
unbelievable. I mean, I'm watching, you know, certain shots, trying to figure out how they move the camera around these people and these environments. It's unbelievable. And so, of course, the director of photography should get accolades for being in command of
Yeah.
setting
Of course.
that up.
Right.
But the guy who's carrying the camera is also like,
Yeah.
he's the one sweating it out. He's the one
it's
saying,
storytelling.
yes, I can give that a shot, you know?
And the trick that's being played too, even for us to try to figure it out. Yeah. Like, well, what did they use there?
Yeah.
And when you
Like
can't
when he's on the
tell,
horse or Revenant, like how
Yeah.
did they do that horse?
And that's the best
brilliant.
moment when you
Behind
can't
the
figure
scenes.
it
I
out.
want to see how that worked.
When
yeah.
the technology becomes seamless and you can't see how it was done, that's the magic moment.
yeah.
We're talking
You
about
know?
unsung heroes here.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
Yeah.
the people behind the camera and the people that are holding the weight of the film in a way.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
And the masseuses behind them.
The masseuses behind them. Yeah.
The what?
The
The
masseuses
masseuses.
behind
Yeah.
the steady camera.
Yeah.
So
No,
how do you
it's
think?
the story. That's the thing.
It's the
Yeah.
story.
There you go.
Yep.
It should get lost in there, really. If it's told right, you shouldn't be thinking about these things. Unfortunately,
We can't
probably-
help it.
Well, we all do a little bit, right?
The second time we watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Watch it again. So how do you think, then, building on that, these tools enable, directors, director of photography, directors themselves, producers to do more? I mean, from your experience on set, I mean, is it something? Is it you bringing this the part to the story? Are you adding to that storytelling, or is it? How are they utilizing these tools?
Sure. I mean, it goes both ways. Usually, when I'm asked to do a shoot, they already have ideas as to what they want to shoot and how they want to do it. And if depends on the relationship I have with them, but a lot of times I will bring up ideas. Maybe I'll just bring a cable cam system with me in my car.
Yeah.
And they'll talk about a shot and be like, "Can we do a drone shot over like this audience or whatever?" And I go, "Well, that's illegal. We can't do that. But we could move the camera in the same way. If that shot's important to the story, let's talk about other ways we can do it.
Right.
Let's string a cable over it and put the camera on that."
Yeah.
So being able to do that on the fly and say it'll take 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever, that allows us to tell a story in the best way possible without potentially injuring somebody or breaking a law or whatever the case may be. So again, it's about telling a story. Every time it's about, why are we doing this shot?
Right.
If it's just for something cool, okay, well, if you're paying me, we'll do whatever you want. But if you really want to know what's important, it's telling the story the best way possible. And for that, any tool is potentially the best tool. Whether it's putting a GoPro on something because you need it to fit in a small space, or putting a Movi XL on a cable cam, it always comes back to that. Why are we doing the shot? Is this the best tool to do it?
And there's another weird aspect, which is a hazard for us, and that is we're still at the mercy of whoever downstream edits the show. And so you not only have to deliver this in a weird sort of way, you also have to sell the idea, or it has to sell itself. One of my nightmares was we shot Live Aid with the Skycam, and we flew over these vast crowds toward these artists in 1985 with the Skycam. Never seen before stuff. And in the editing booth, they were all coked up in the editing booth and cutting it in 16 frame hunks.
Yeah.
And we saw the result, we're going, God, how could you do that? These shots that have a point, and they start somewhere and they end somewhere, and they create an effect over time. It's all suddenly boop, boop, boop.
Right.
I unfortunately was not able to wreak my revenge on the editors on that, but
Well, they're watching now, so now they know.
I hope they know. Whoever you are, even if you're retired.
Worked hard on that shit.
Well, this is probably the case with Steadicam operators as well as Movi operators. All the time, we lay out these complex one takes. We're moving through a building, doing all this stuff, and just like you're saying in post, they decide they don't want a one take. They're going to cut it in all these pieces.
Yeah.
It takes so much time and planning to do that.
Let's discuss that
Right.
while we're about to do it, because I love cuts with Steadicam. It's a fabulous way to get cuts. Here and here and here.
Right.
And you can be much ballsier
Yes.
shooting if you don't have to make it into a oneer. The oneer
Hold the one to
tames
push
all.
through, right,
For sure.
A great example is Carlito's Way, a classic film.
Oh, yeah.
The stuff in the subway was all Steadicam cuts. And nobody's going to get up and leave the theater because there's a cut. They don't care. So
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I love shooting for cuts. I don't care if it's a Warner.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because again, like you say, if your goal is just to get from here to there the best way possible, I know how much energy it's going to take to do that shot, and if I know I've got to go 5 minutes straight for this insane shot, I'm going to conserve some of my energy. But if all I got to do,
the whole production's energy gets sucked
yeah,
into it.
yeah,
And
and
look, why follow somebody's bald spot down the steps or pursue their ass up the steps?
Right.
It's much better to cut to the bottom, or cut to the top.
yeah,
It's-
no, you're right.
It's funny, I see the opposite side, because all of our shots are like, let's do this specific sequence.
Right.
You know,
It's
we're
very
going to go look here, look here, look here.
Inherently a one.
And that's the story, you know. And
Yeah.
then like, how did it get there? You know, there's all the wonder of what's behind all that, and so you read the articles. But it's very different than these long. You know, these are story-driven usually. Like I'm going to do a long oneer. The whole thing was on oneers. I'm going to look at a story developing in front of me as I'm part of it. You know, like I'm seeing this story is happening, then this thing, and this thing. For us, it's more like we have a really short story to tell, but how do we tell it in a unique way? And sometimes it's how do we tell it very quickly?
Yeah.
No,
And how do we
Sean,
tell it at slow motion and really quickly?
Yeah.
You know.
if some editor cut up your robot shot, would the robot
Those
go
would not
nuts
make a
and
lot of
run
sense,
amok
unfortunately.
and trash its way out of the set?
So
The robot runs
luckily the robot doesn't get its feelings hurt, and it can't yell at the editor years later. But I could.
Well, I mean, but on that same vein, though, when you're approached, when you're working with a team of, and probably being that's motion control, it's usually around VFX involved or some amount. But what's that creative process like?
So usually there is a previs.
Right.
So they come in with a game plan.
Right.
As we all know, game plans are just game plans. They don't usually hold on too long.
Right.
But we picture what the shot's going to be like.
Right.
And then in our case, you know, like take the Microsoft spot or whatever. I work with the visual team to say, okay, well, this is what's really possible. And, you know, because you did the previs before we gave you the model or something, and you came up with all these crazy ideas. Some of them are not possible, but here's what we can do. And then here's what we could do together.
Right.
So that's where that creative process comes in. All that we have are creative assistants, right? They're just tools to help people be creative.
Yeah.
So then we work together with the team to get whatever's in their mind onto the screen. And with Kira, it's, okay, I see what you did there. It's visually amazing. Let's try to make it happen with the robot that really can do anything as long as you know how to talk to it.
You're still you're still programming this thing together.
We are, yeah. We're still going, you know, keyframe by keyframe, hitting all the story points at the moments.
We're not threatened by this, are we?
Yeah, and you really shouldn't be.
It's a
because
different world, you know.
Yeah, it's
It's
very
you guys are telling a different story in a different way, and there's so many stories to be told, and there's so many different ways to do it, and it's advancing.
Yeah, it is.
Do you ever anthropomorphize your robot?
I do. So Kira is a girl,
Yeah,
and she's she's really smart. Some women are like, why are you anthropomorphizing? I don't like that on set. You know, like there's a stigmatism towards women. I'm like, well, Kira's a really powerful, creative, smart individual that gets her shit done on set. You know, so that's how I see this woman, and that's a really empowering thing, I think.
Do you ever give her a treat of 36 volts or something for
A little oil.
oil? Yes.
Or threaten her with salt
I
water.
do keep her nice and clean, though. Yeah, she usually behaves really well.
Nice.
It always gets weird in the Teradek.
It always gets
It's out of the cube. Yeah.
So, I mean, and Garrett and Ray, I mean, there must be a million stories. I mean, we can't go over all of them. But, can you just give us anecdotally, if anything, just a little insight into some of the creative? I know it's hard to hear across.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know, sorry. Some of the creative challenges you've had with directors, let's say, and finding a shot. Because I'm always interested. I mean, these things, like we said, we love the behind-the-scenes stuff. So, and I always like to know, the challenges that you face.
Well, some of it is, I'm an amateur student of human nature, which is useful in this business, and I learned early on a few key things, and every now and then now we're teaching kids in workshops, how to do Steadicam, and peripherally lecturing to film schools and all that. And I've drifted into this thing of sharing a bit of that, with the kids, because as good as we are at what we do, there is a political aspect to the work. You can't just simply do what you do well. They're watching you. They're watching you and your machine. They're watching you and yours, and me and mine. And for better or worse, you're an auteur. You're out there. So I learned, for example, that if you have an idea, it's not a great idea to say to a big ego, "Wait a second, why don't you do it this way?" Because that says, "Hey, pal, your idea sucks and I have a better one. But you're the director and I'm the operator, And I've learned to, sort of present an idea as a discovery, because they're always watching. They're watching over Video Village and so on. So if you do it and you go, "Hey, this is pretty cool. What do you think of this?" They are not threatened by, and I'm not putting down anybody, by the time you get to be a Spielberg or anybody else, you've earned it, But you also get ideas you don't want from every quarter. So, and the other one is, don't tell actors what to do. if you have a problem, like there's a classic story. Can I tell this? The Jack
Larry?
Nicholson story.
Yeah, Larry.
You got a minute?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Larry McConkey is a great Steadicam operator. He's a master at this trick.
Yeah.
And Jack gets bored and he likes to just screw with people, so he'll plant himself in Larry's way, so that the Steadicam can't get through. And if Larry says, Jack, I need you to stand over here, he'll go, Larry, I am working here. Don't tell me where to stand. With a lot more expletives deleted. But Larry is too smart for him. Larry will just stop and look like a kind of confused chicken, and eventually somebody will say, Larry, what's the matter? And Larry will go, well, I'm this wide, and the space I have to get through is this wide. And then he stops. And eventually Jack goes, Larry, how about if I stand over here? Jack, that's a great idea. So there's, unfortunately or fortunately, it's not only our skills and our job, it's this amazing organism, film crew, And you, if you're visible, have to know how to handle yourself so that at the end of the day they go, this one is great, we have to have them back. Kira is great, we have to have her back. Be careful she doesn't blow you out of this picture. If you see her making her own deals. No, but it's a lot of that. I've learned a lot of that the hard way. I learned a lot from Kubrick, not so much about the politics, because that was all results driven. I learned to take the long view in 40 takes and improve my choreography every time and become this monster of good shooting, and study the job the whole time. So that's the gift. You learn over the period of time that I've been in, and as you will learn some things you can't imagine now, not just technically, but about the great game of human nature.
How to play in these groups. How to play well with others. And
And the film crew is a really interesting dynamic.
It is.
Small, large, whatever.
So, just looking to the future here and looking around the show, what you see this year, anything that really stands out as things that we're looking forward to, that we see that in the future might change the business, or just stuff you saw in the show at all that you think is interesting? Sam, what do you think?
Well, I think I haven't seen any tech that's really groundbreaking this year, to be honest. That's not a bad thing, but I see refinements. A lot of things are getting improvements that were really necessary. I mean, the Movi Pro was a big deal last year.
Right.
It didn't necessarily change the way we move cameras. It just allowed us to work on set more efficiently and do solve problems that we were having. The Movi XL now allows us to put a larger camera, like an Alexa 65 on there, or a Phantom Flex, with larger lenses, like zoom lenses, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I see that as a pretty an important step. I like seeing this, like I was talking about earlier, the modularization of things, the versatility, because quite honestly, I don't want to run around with a Movi all day and do these shots. It's not the right tool for everything.
Right.
A dolly is so much fun to operate on and gives you so much different freedom than operating a Movi. You can breathe easily and operate in a different state of mind than when you're running around with something heavy. So all those tools haven't gone anywhere. It's just a matter of having them accessible. If you have to choose between having a Movi on set or a dolly and track, how do you make that choice? If you don't have to make that choice, even better.
Right.
So how do we get back to telling the story with the best tools possible versus trying to do everything with one tool or something
being caught
like
up
that.
in the idea of one tool has to fit everything, right? Yeah.
And then the other thing too, like Dan Kane from Paralinks has these new anamorphic lenses that are coming out, and they're like, the price is like $7,000 each. That to me is amazing because I can't afford to buy the lenses that I want.
Sure,
I can sometimes buy some old lenses or borrow some from a friend, but as a creative, I like to go out and shoot my own stuff, and I don't always have a budget to that. But if I can own my gear and it's a beautiful day out, I might just go grab a friend and try shooting something. And so if I have access to affordable lenses like that, that to me opens up my mind to creativity. Or it's less risk. Like maybe I can put them in underwater housing and not worry so much if I'm going to flood it. I mean, I won't want to flood it, but I'm not putting I
think it's in general just that equipment become more affordable over time, which makes it more accessible.
It opens it up to experimentation,
and it turns us it enables all of us to do more for less and just to get started earlier.
Yeah, like in the 70s, which I think is still like the golden era of film, the Steadicam freed up the camera operator.
Right.
You could take the camera in places you couldn't take before, and it didn't cost that much. And that was like a massive creative tool that opened up new possibilities as a storyteller.
Yeah.
And
It
I think
still is for
and it still
30
is.
years, 40 years.
And all these other tools are hopefully allowing storytellers to get even more creative, come up with crazier ideas.
Do you have any new stuff to pimp here?
I do, sure. But actually, I was going to talk about other things, but so we have multiple lines of robots coming out. We want to be able to. So the reason we started motorized
World
precision-
domination.
Exactly. People are scared of robots, but it's really like you said before, it's the people behind them.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to give more tools. You know, Kira's can be expensive for some people, it can be cheap for others.
Depending on your
We're coming out
ask.
with a Mia line. It's a much smaller robot,
Yeah.
single phase power, so you can take it anywhere. Only weighs
great.
120 pounds. Can still do all the speed and the reach.
Versus a half
you
ton.
know,
Versus very heavy. Yeah.
versus a lot more. So, and then other integrations. I've been walking around there. I did see some new things. I see there's other problems. How do I, go high speed but let the focus always be there?
Right.
I was like, okay, well, we set keyframes and we interpolate, but I saw some other systems that will do autofocus with 3D cameras, and there's a whole bunch of new technology. And as technology is developing outside of our industry, it's being brought in and utilized to help make it easier and allow you to be more
efficient.
creative.
Yeah.
So easier is a scary word for some people, but it's really we want them to have an easy time telling their stories, because the story is what's important. And if we can make it easy and simple and intuitive for them, then they can do it. And if we can make it cheap, then a lot more people can do it. And then we can possibly see, entertain the world in a much more positive way and more precise in my case.
In your case.
But all sorts of new things, new features under software, new hardware. We have track systems. We have smaller, bigger robots, and they can do more. And they are getting smarter, but they still need me to tell them what to do.
Good. Well, you set me up great. Ray and I have a new gadget to show you.
I saw something behind there. Yeah.
What?
Maybe I can
No.
bring this guy over.
So this is the Steadicam Volt, and on the subject of democratizing what we do and allowing people access to it, and not setting them up to fail, right? But setting them up to succeed in a really good way. The goal with our small Steadicams for phones and for GoPros and so on was exactly that. But with a small Steadicam in general, since it's a Newtonian object, that comes with the need for a certain amount of finesse. The smaller it gets, the better you have to be. Have you seen this before, Andrew?
I've seen slight variations maybe in time. But
Okay, this
I've not the Volt-
is
I've never seen the
where
Volt
we're
before.
headed. Okay, the word volt suggests where we're going with this, because as you approach nanotechnology with these things, in order for you to handle it, it would be nice if it behaved like a big Steadicam, right? I mean, I could shoot with this, but it takes all the skill I've got to make it work in 3 axes, okay? So this one is in neutral balance approximately, right? It's balanced in, pan and tilt. But the secret sauce is this is the first hybrid electronic and Newtonian object, right? I just fired it up. It is now a self-leveling and with artificial inertia. And the crazy thing is it's using your hand as the ground. So it's pushing against your hand. Allow me to fire it up.
Yeah, please.
Tactile feedback is important,
I wonder around the Teradek fish booth.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, we all know your code now, Garrett. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
We change it every
The
day.
classic one for sure, yeah.
And one more thing, this is set in so-called sport mode, so it's inert in pan. It's kind of sticky, frictional in tilt. 2 hits of this button, green and red meaningless lights, and now this is inert in all 3 axes and self-leveling. And if you go ahead, Sam, stick your hand on that. Hit
Yeah.
It's sort of like a
Right here?
Feel just pan it and tilt it. Feel that it has the mass of a
larger
5 kilogram Steadicam, and it weighs a half a kilogram.
Yeah.
And it tends to your operating. It makes your operating better.
Of course.
I am almost embarrassed to admit that I can shoot better with this than I can with a big Steadicam after 100 movies. So almost any bloke or gal that picks this up can shoot like a skillful Steadicam operator.
Wow.
We see people go walking with it and they just have these goofy grins on their faces.
Right.
And somebody who's a good operator, I mean, you watch Ray with this thing, it's godlike what you can do with it because the great bugaboo of level is gone. And with all respect to, gimbals and so on, the only issue with the gimbals is unless you've got a guy on the wheels next to you, your operating in majestic mode has a certain degree of disconnection with the, how shall we say, current moment, one-to-one reality. This is a device that tends to your operating, and you can operate in real time and point it where you want it, and yet it has that supernatural skill quality. And this is what the marriage of electronics and physics gets us with ABS braking.
Yeah.
With a host of things in the real world that help your skills. I'm a late convert to this, but this is a place that Steadicam is going to go big time.
I was going to ask, is
in
this
all-
transferable then to the larger format Steadicams?
I dare not
Must be.
say, Sam.
But I see the writing on the wall.
But I dare say stand by because the effects of this are mind-blowing,
Wow.
And
We're
it's,
starting in the right market.
it begins here. Look, if you can do it with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the most amount of cameras on the world are cell phone cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody has a camera.
Everyone has
It's
a
your
camera
cell phone.
already. It's probably in your pocket.
Yeah,
Yours over there.
my partners and I are shooting our documentaries with the iPhone 7 and the Volt. So you saw it here. I mean, this is where we're headed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really
And I
incredible.
like that it's that merger. It's technology, as you said, it's that where you're taking sort of similar technology, I assume, to what's in the gimbal,
Right.
and bringing it into here and turning it into something that, is a Steadicam product,
Yeah.
which is, it's a Steadicam still.
Yeah.
And in this case, very accessible. Again, enabling people. So I think that's the great stuff about this show to me is that
Absolutely.
it's like, it's both super high end stuff that we all love to look at anamorphic glass and see
That's
that,
right.
but also equipment that enables young filmmakers and anyone to get.
Accessibility to storytelling.
It is. It's huge.
Well, he brings up a great point. Like being able to respond immediately to what's happening on set is where the movie does suffer a little because there is that lag
and
by
the-
design
right.
in order to keep it stabilized. And so the biggest challenge I have is whip panning, for example, or shooting
Yeah.
anything with action because I have to sort of guess as to how much to
Right.
throw
Yeah.
it based on what I think the actor
You
is
can
going to do.
figure it out, but it's weird. You're in
Yeah.
the same mode as the Steadicam operator. It takes a lot of skill to do it.
That's right.
It does.
And if you have a great hand on the wheels,
Yeah.
you've got great work. But then you have the classic two-person problem,
Two
the
brains.
coordination of dolly grip
Right.
and,
That's right.
one
is
thing that we love about this is you're an auteur. You're the man. You're
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, that's incredible. I can't wait to see
these
what comes
days you would
next.
say you're the person who makes it work.
Well, with all the, like you were saying, the technology getting smaller, cameras getting smaller, people shooting content on phones,
Yeah.
you need devices like this in their hands. And I recently trained a couple NFL teams on the larger systems. When I went back to visit them to see how they were doing, they were all shooting with Osmos. And because it was required by the NFL for them to start developing content on phones and
Yeah.
GoPros and stuff like that. And when I showed up with this, it was just like you said, they liked the Osmo for the compactness and being able to just turn it on and go. But the precision to catch the action is what they needed.
Changes it, yeah.
And
Wow.
that's, I brought this and
Kinda
they
nice blend,
understood
isn't
it
it?
inherently as Steadicam operators. Oh, this is a Steadicam. And now I can capture all that action very quickly and follow it and actually frame it precisely and not miss the action.
Yeah.
So it was just really neat to see that those two things combined, and have them actually have it be useful for them. They were like, oh God, and they were fighting over this.
Yeah,
On the
I
field.
heard today that when there are 6 or 7 of the gimbals on the shelf and 2 of these are missing and the gimbals are there. But for reasons that we know well. But I did want to show you, we made the smallest one we've ever made is the Steadicam Nano, which I brought one of. And
Is it working? Well?
Oh, have you got it? Oh, damn.
It's really good with small technology. I can handle this.
He's got a robot
It is
that'll find it.
infectious, though, by the way. You're going to need to be
I'll pass
vaccinated.
it on. It's fine.
Well, on that note, we're all out of time. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great.
Yeah.
Please come
Thanks,
back and
brother.
Thank you.
visit our
Good.
booth, and we'll be back tomorrow for a lighting panel, guys. So stay tuned for that. And thanks. Appreciate it.